They called him Mr. Portier. What's up? Welcome back. I'm John Stark from BackToMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic. And we're still diving into Black History Month. I know I don't look like somebody that would do that, but that's what I'm doing. I'm a blind film critic, and I'm looking for movies that have audio description and also have some semblance of some of these are going to be a stretch, but this one's definitely not. This is a Best Picture winner from 1968. This is In the Heat of the Night. In the heat of the night. I tried. Um, that was awful. Like and subscribe because I will pretty much do anything on this channel. I don't know. It's just anything could happen. Also, I'm here to talk about audio description, and in a time when we're running away from DEI, I would love if we could run towards it because it really helps, people like me ultimately in the long run with accessibility and reasonable accommodations and stuff like that. So let's pick up the pace and let's get back in that burning building and put the fire out. So In the Heat of the Night is the winner. It's directed by Norman Jewison. It's Sidney Poitier. He was not nominated for this. What the what the he was in 3 movies in this year. He was in this, he was in Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, and both are Best Picture nominees. And he was not nominated for either of them. What the shit? Anyway, for one of like the greatest and most well-known lines in film history, they call me Mr. Tibbs. Like, I mean, it's such a simplistic line, but repeated by thousands of people like me, always trying to do it the way that Sidney did it. And it just is part of a greater context. When you watch In the Heat of the Night, which is a story about a murder in the Deep South and steeped in racism, obviously, like covered in it, in racism. And we have a young black man who's on a train and he gets stopped, and the cops just kind of pull him off. They don't really have reason or just cause or anything they just take him in, and they're like, "This is how it is, boy." You always know in a movie like this, as soon as somebody finishes a sentence with the word boy, you're like, oh God, we got ourselves a racist. They need not use racial slurs. They just need to finish every sentence with boy while talking to black people. And he gets dragged into the office, and the sheriff there, played by Rod Steiger, is clearly also racist. And they're willing to hold him until they find out, as they're questioning him, and he's like, "You have no cause to hold me. Why am I here?" Sidney's great. There's so much in that voice when he's clearly just pissed off. He's like, "God damn, I'm here because I'm black. I know that, but I'm gonna press you. I'm gonna make you say it." And they mentioned that there was this murder, and Sidney ends up revealing the fact that he's actually an officer himself, just from up north. So they end up making him, in this movie, he has to solve the murder because I guess everybody here is a bunch of dumbasses and can't figure out what is going on with their lives. So they're like, "I don't know, why don't we see as really a detective?" So he has to solve a crime in a community that's not his with people he doesn't know, and see how that goes for him. Lee Grant's in here too. Is another name from around this period that did pretty well. I'm trying to think of other actors and actresses that I know. I'm not as versed. The further we go back, the further away from my birthday that we go back through history. I didn't spend as much time with those movies as I should have. But this film was in Best Picture against some heavy hitters. Heavy hitters. First of all, another film I'd really like to do, if I can find it with audio description this month, which is Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, was also nominated for Best Picture. Um, but it was also nominated against Bonnie and Clyde in The Graduate. And I hadn't really ever given much thought to the fact that In the Heat of the Night was the Oscar winner this year, and The Graduate was not. And then this made me really think, like, holy fuck. Like, what the... Because The Graduate feels like it's subversive in its own way, because coming out of the 60s, all three of those movies were subversive in very different ways. Bonnie and Clyde for its violence, The Graduate for its sexuality, and In the Heat of the Night for its depiction of racial tension, and highlighting the fact that a film like this in 1967 was really powerful. You know, also Guess Who's Coming to Dinner did the same thing, but in a lighter sense with, well, it's not quite smacking you in the face with a whole bunch of Southern racists, but it was a film where they couldn't make it in the South. Like, this film was actually shot in Illinois because, well, if they went much further south, Sidney Poitier was getting death threats from the Klan. So they had to shoot this somewhere in Illinois where Sidney was safe and wasn't going to be murdered for being in a movie. You know, first black actor to win an Academy Award. He obviously got a lot of flack from people who were racist and didn't like him for existing. So, and wanted to teach him a lesson. So there are certain states he avoided, he couldn't go into. So they couldn't shoot this where they wanted to shoot this, where it made sense to shoot this. So this is in Illinois. Illinois doubles as the Deep South, which is a sign of the times. But again, this movie was released in 1967. Generally, films shot before that, so it's probably shot in 66. I mean, when you think about the Equal Rights Amendment and civil rights and where all that was in this time period, yeah, you know, the assassination of MLK, yeah, everything, the racial tension in this time period was high. And the fact that Norman Jewison and was shining a light onto it with In the Heat of the Night, and that Sidney Poitier was jumping sort of headfirst into this, and you know, willing to pull out some really shocking moments in cinema. Like, there's a black man that slaps a white man in this, and that is, for 1967, subversive as fuck. You know, like, that is, it seems like we've seen that 1,000 times, and now we don't even give it, like, you know what I'm saying? Now it's just like, well, that happened in a movie, and if somebody points it out, I'd be like, was that a problem for you? Have you not seen that in a movie before? But in 1967, that's a huge deal. And they have the character react in a way that's like, boy, I could have you, you know, that kind of thing. So, it's a great movie. It's just up against some titans, and I honestly don't know what to do with with this, because I think personally my favorite is The Graduate. It's the one that I've seen the most. But Bonnie and Clyde's a great movie too, and it's weird because I actually thought one of them had won the Oscar, and I thought In the Heat of the Night wasn't a winner. Just if you had asked me, I know I'm supposed to remember every single Academy Award winner of all time ever, but I actually would have, if somebody gave me those 5 nominees, I would have had a harder time between Bonnie and Clyde and The Graduate. I even Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, I would have leaned in more on that. My original sort of interaction with this actually started with being a kid and flipping channel surfing, and there was In the Heat of the Night, the TV show, which I think was like always on WGN and like syndication or something. It had Carol O'Connor in it, and that's what I remember. I didn't even know it was a movie until I was older, and then I was like, oh, The TV show is based on a movie? Oh, okay. So, like, I casually saw like, a few minutes of the TV show of Carol O'Connor doing, uh, Rod Steiger's role and, remembering that and thinking, "Oh," and then, always getting sort of like the lesson from the adults about Carol O'Connor and being like, "Well, there was a sitcom called All in the Family." He used to play Archie Bunker, and now this is a more serious turn for him. So, you know, uh, I guess because I was young, nobody was like, "And there's also this movie that we don't want you to watch yet until you get older," based on that. So I always just thought it was his TV show, and then suddenly, I got in my teens, and I was like, "Oh, there's a movie version of In the Heat. That makes way more sense." Okay, I get it now. So, yeah, In the Heat of the Night it's a great movie for its time period, but it's a great movie overall. Like it's one of those things that you look at now, and if you don't appreciate why it made a difference in 1967, it could get lost in the noise today. Like if it was released today, if it was made today, and then it would be just judged against a whole bunch of movies like it that have come after In the Heat of the Night, that have come since then, and some of them are excellent. And then it'd be on the tail end of that and wondering, then you'd have to judge it with everything else. But when you realize that this is the first domino, that this is the domino that kicked over all the other dominoes, that this is where a lot of it started, um, that it becomes far more impressive. Sometimes you have to take a movie in its time period and really say and keep it there and be impressed and jump into that little time portal and take yourself back to 1967 and say, "Wow, this is great cinema for uh you know not having done anything like this before." Same thing with something like Midnight Cowboy, which is around the same time period. It's like, have we since passed it? Does that X rating now look silly compared to some of the things that we've put into film now? Yeah. Yeah, it does. It absolutely does. Um, but at the same time, for its time period, it was pushing a shit ton of boundaries. So films like that and The Heat of the Night, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, Bonnie and Clyde, and The Graduate are all part of this wave that came out at the end of the 60s that were really changing cinema, that were really running from the code as much as humanly possible and trying to break open and bust open new doors in exciting ways for filmmakers. Um, and this is just one of those excellent movies from the time period. I don't know what I would vote for. I know and it's the In the Heat of the Night review, and I'm supposed to be like, well, I would vote for this. That's why I'm here celebrating it for Black History Month. I think I'm more shocked that Sidney Poitier is not nominated. He should be like a double nominee in this field, like for for this and Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. I don't, maybe that was the problem, was that people were like, I don't know, which one do we pick for? And then he vote split or something. But that's the bigger thing, is how can somebody create such an iconic character and somehow we whiffed that one, you know. I love that, by the way, the other film that was nominated this year is Dr. Dolittle. And I think we can agree, no matter which one of the four films that I nominated, you're probably like, well, at least it wasn't Dr. Dolittle. Because when we talk about standing up to the test of time, is Dr. Dolittle a fine movie? Absolutely. It's a fine movie. But if we had to sit here and talk, and I had to try to justify Dr. Dolittle winning Best Picture over the other four movies, nonsense. Utter nonsense. At least I'm justifying, in the heat over the night, in the heat of the night over, the other films, and having a debate about that. But no, I wouldn't be able to do it. I'm like, I don't know whether crack was being smoked. So Um, yeah, if you have a chance, check out In the Heat of the Night. I liked it. It has pretty good audio description all the way through. Pretty honest audio description, defining exactly what characters look like. I mean, it's about racism. Like racism is front and center. The audio description does take the time to describe characters as black or white so that you have an understanding of what you're walking into in a situation. Because as he goes throughout the town, you know, and tries to solve this murder, he's meeting a whole bunch of other people through along the way. So I think most, if not all of them, were described. Maybe not everybody. Sometimes it's about how much time you have before dialogue hits you. So I need to see an effort made most of the time, not necessarily like a did we get every single one? We may not be able to. So I'm open to that too, because I functionally understand what audio description is. But yeah, if it's a great way to find something if you're sitting around, since every streaming service right now is doing their Black voices, Black stories, Black creators. You know, like they have a little tab for you to click on, where they've aggregated all the movies or TV shows that they find appropriate for Black History Month. This is a great one because, well, it historically has a purpose to it. You know, it's a Best Picture winner, and Sidney Poitier fought to make this and have certain things continue to be included, even though there were threats on his life. So, um, I think we have a great movie because of it. So, is it one of my favorite movies of all time? No. Like I said, I've seen The Graduate the most, but even The Graduate, I don't. Desert Island film for The Graduate, it just is the film I've seen the most. I don't put on The Graduate as a happy movie, like as a movie that warms me to the bone. It just, of the movies that were nominated this year, it is the movie that I've seen the most. So for whatever reason, like I don't even really actively, I'm not even really aware of why I've seen The Graduate as many times as I've seen The Graduate. So that's the film that I gravitate toward. But I've yeah, I mean, again, I think there are like four great nominees this year, and I think any one of the four would have held up as a Best Picture winner, including Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, which I'm now really anxious to see if there's an audio description track for. So that's it. That's In the Heat of the Night. Watch Sidney Poitier. See if he solves the crime in time. See if he can figure out what the truth is behind the death. See if Rod Steiger can ever, I don't know, shed some of that racism by the end of the movie and realize that Virgil Tibbs is a badass. Probably not. They made him a little bit more warm and fuzzy for the TV show. Carol O'Connor was a little bit less. Uh, uh, Rod Steiger is pretty much straight. He goes straight forward. He got, I mean, he did get the Oscar for it, but not Sidney, which is so sad. I hate when we do that. Anyway, there you go. Those are my thoughts. So I'm giving In the Heat of the Night an A because it's a great film. Norman Jewison's a great director. It's got great acting in it. It's got a great story. It's historically like fantastic for its time. I have no reason to not like this movie. I have nothing against this movie. There's nothing. It's just what you're asking me to do at the end of the day is to sit down and go 4 A-rated movies up against each other and be like, pick one. I'd be like, fuck. I don't know. Especially when they're all like historically important to cinema. Like all 4 of those movies like were part of something. They started something. They moved something forward just in different ways. And damn, 2 of them star Sidney Poitier, so this is a great year for him, even though the Oscars didn't think so. That's it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And remember, diversity, equity, inclusivity, they're not curse words. And I'll see you guys on the other side.